Welcome to Audio Tales AI, your destination for captivating stories. Today, we unveil a tale filled with unexpected and life-changing decisions. Remember to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and let's dive in.
My name is Mark and my wife of 3.5 years is Carly. We met at a career days event while I was earning my master's degree. My degree and her company weren't a match, but her and I were. After a few cookie-cutter dates, things just caught fire. The chemistry was there. She was 6 months removed from an engagement and I had been playing the field for the last 2 years. We spent most of my free time together. She was working a salary position and I was knee-deep working on my thesis. We were both conservative when it came to starting to get intimate, but once it started, there was no doubt we belonged together. We were married the summer after I graduated. We professed that our love would last forever. I landed a job geographically closed enough to allow Carly to keep her job. I work in network solutions for a company based in northern Indiana. I'm a project manager and have a dozen people reporting to me. When we do a major client setup, a group of 4 or 5 of us will travel to the client's site for upwards of a week. I don't decide who travels. We have a group of project managers and my boss Dennis to make those decisions. We try to make sure everyone gets their feet wet doing on-site installs. This time, I had 2 guys and 3 women. All had at least one on-site implementation in their backgrounds. At age 27, my master's degree was paying big dividends. All but one of this crew were older than me. This client had been difficult to work with, so the maturity of the crew would almost certainly be an asset. It didn't take too long for the first angry encounter. We arrived at 8 a.m., had the introductory meeting, and then started implementing our solution. It was mid-morning when their so-called expert lost their temper with Leanne. She is one of my more qualified people. Along with their site manager, I helped diffuse the situation. Leanne was visibly shaken. I took her to the coffee room to give her a little time to recoup. After about 15 minutes, she returned to her desk. Unfortunately, this whole scene would repeat itself shortly after lunch. The resident expert ended up being sent home for the day. I tried for a half hour to get Leanne calmed down, but in the end I sent her back to the hotel. Leanne joined the team for dinner. Afterwards, I told them I was going to run around the park by the hotel and invited any or all to join me. Leanne was the only one to accept. We really didn't say much while we jogged until she broke the ice. Her voice was more pleasant than usual. You know, we could run away and live happily ever after. Go lay on the beach and enjoy ourselves. What brings that on Leanne? Well, you know, just up and go. Leave everything behind. Leanne, let's not go there. You know the company policy about managers and those they manage. I sat in my room quite dumbfounded by that discussion. I talked with Carly, but didn't bring up Leanne's actions. Leanne had always been less than pleased that I was her superior. You know, the little snipes, the rolling of eyes, all the body language that indicates a lack of respect. I didn't know where today's conversation had come from. Thankfully, the next day at work it was a smooth, uneventful day. The expert expressed his doubts about what we were doing, but he didn't lose his temper. My team and I went out to dinner again. While waiting for our food, a guest ran into a server knocking the tray of food to floor. The guest was a jerk yelling and screaming. After dinner I jogged by myself. I talked with Carly, then I turned on 10 p.m. news to relax. I heard a knock on my door. I opened to find Leanne with her coat on. Hi Leanne. Everything all right? The tone of her voice was different. Just wanted to show you something you might like. She proceeded to unbutton her coat and display her body to me. Leanne, cover up. Thanks for the offer, but no. Go back to your room. I'll see you in the morning. She gave me a seductive sad look, then smiled. Okay. Bye. I decided I needed to alert Dennis. Sent an email requesting a moment of his time to talk privately about Leanne. That email would turn out to be very valuable for me. In the morning, I approached Leanne and everything was fine, like nothing happened the night before. She's good at what she does, but her behavior was nothing short of bizarre. Dennis responded to my email later in the day that he would try to get with me when I returned. Nothing unusual the rest of the trip. Things seemed to be fine back home. Leanne was just as brusque as she'd always been. I hope that whatever caused those 2 nights of strange behavior were in the past. Stupid me. Sunday evening, I received a text from Leanne. That was the best intimacy I've ever had, with lots of heart emojis. I hadn't seen Leanne since our plane landed on Friday evening. She must have mistakenly chosen my phone number when sending her lover a text. I did not respond. I would talk with her in the morning. The thought of Leanne with a lover was hard for me to imagine. The same could easily be said about me, I'm sure. Leanne, I think you mistakenly sent me a text last night. What are you talking about, Mark? I didn't send anyone a text message last night. I didn't press the issue. I had a pretty busy day myself. Tuesday night, I received a text message from Leanne. It was a completely naked selfie. The intimacy with you couldn't get any better. You're amazing in bed with those love bird emojis. I sent another email to my boss Dennis reminding him of my attempt to have a private conversation with him. He replied and apologized for not getting back to me. However, he put me off until next Monday as he was out of town. Leanne called in sick on Wednesday. I would have to wait a day to confront her. My day was about as average as any other day had been. At the end of the day I collected my bag and walked out to the parking lot. I really didn't expect it when someone called my name as I was getting into my car. That was the last thing I remember. Whatever I got hit with was sufficient to knock me out. I woke in the emergency room. The police took my statement and brought me up to date. Apparently, Terry, Leanne's husband, had decided that I was having an affair with Leanne. He did an excellent job of beating me up. I had a concussion, 2 broken ribs, a hernia, and a broken hand. My face was heavily bandaged. Terry had left copies of Leanne's text and pictures with my unconscious body. The photo had been colored with a black marker to hide her body. Unfortunately, he had delivered the same copies to Carly. Carly answered her phone the first time I called. She said that she hoped I would die a painful death and hung up. The hospital kept me overnight for observation. I tried calling Carly back but she would not answer her phone. On Thursday, I took a cab back to my car, then drove home and stayed there. Carly wouldn't talk to me when she got home. Rather than starve, I had a pizza delivered. On Friday, I went into the office even though my side was killing me. Mid-afternoon, I was told that I had been placed on paid leave. Apparently, Terry had filed a complaint. My hearing would be the day my boss Dennis returned. When I made it home, I found Carly dressed provocatively. "Where are you going dressed like that? I wasn't expecting you home so soon. I left you a note. I have a date." "Carly, don't do this. There's no going back if you do." "Oh, I see, you can mess around and I can't." I told her to show me her proof and explained I haven't done anything wrong. "So her jealous husband beat you up as a warning to quit flirting." "Carly, he has mistaken me for someone else. I have not done anything that would jeopardize our marriage." "I've seen the text she sent you. Looks like you're not as innocent as you say you are. Do you see me responding to any of them? Did you find any emails from me? Do you have any photos? I know those answers. It's no to all of it. There is none to be found. I am completely innocent. I don't believe it. I may or may not be back tonight. I wouldn't wait up for me. Don't do this. I'm warning you. Deal with it, Mark." And with that, my wife tipped the first domino over to end our marriage. She had a date with someone she worked with. It was her idea of revenge for what she thought I had done. Her note said basically the same thing she had just said. I was pawn scum and she intended to have some fun too. After a heated exchange, I laid down trying to get comfortable. Soon after, an intense pain in my abdomen that I have never felt before got my attention and I knew I needed medical attention. Before I left a note for Carly that reads, "Something is really wrong. I'm headed to the emergency room." And I left it on the table where she couldn't miss it. At this point it is 6 p.m. on Friday and I'm heading to the emergency room. On arrival I listed my brother as my emergency contact. Testing revealed I had a ruptured spleen. They operated, stitched the spleen, and then stitched me back together. I awoke to the sound of beeps and hums. I drifted into and out of lucidity until I was greeted with a sun-filled room. After eating their suggested diet, I sat pondering the situation I was now in. That confusion was interrupted by my cell phone buzzing. I didn't recognize the number but answered it anyway. On the line was a very angry Terry. "You're one very stupid guy. I thought you were smarter than that, but no. You had to get it on with her again last night. Terry, you've got the wrong person. I'm in the hospital and have been here since 6 p.m. last night." The phone went silent. "Terry, you still there?" He replied, "I went to the gym at 8 p.m. last night. I was only gone for an hour." Her text message to you this morning talked about the great time you two had. "Terry, I was on the operating table. I'm still here, room 612 at University Hospital. I'm not going anywhere today." Terry went quiet and then said he needed to get to the bottom of this situation and he would see me in a little bit. I checked my phone and found the text from Leanne. "Our time last night was so good. Best I have ever had. The floor nurse dropped by to check my vitals and change my drip. I felt like asking her for something to end this nightmare. She left but said she would be back in a bit to change my dressings. No sooner had the nurse left when Carly entered my room. She was still dressed the same as the night before. "Mark, I saw your note. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. You can leave. I don't want you around." "Mark, don't say that. I was worried about you and came right here as soon as I read your note. That means you ended our marriage by staying out all night. Leave. Just get out." My voice had risen to the point that the floor nurse stuck her head in and asked if everything was all right. I asked her to escort Carly out of my room. Carly became belligerent. I was trying to make sense of what Leanne was doing to me. Revenge. For what? Turning her down, being her boss. It had to be she thought my phone number was for someone else. Nothing else made any sense. Carly called my cell. "What didn't you understand? Our marriage is over. Leave me alone." She replied, "Mark, that's crap. You stepped out on our marriage and now you're all high and mighty." "That's where you're wrong, Carly. I didn't step out on our marriage. You did that. Last night. We are done. Leave me alone." I hung up. She sent a text message, "We need to talk." "No, we don't. Move your stuff out or set my stuff by the door." She said I thought we were soulmates. I fired back with, "Is that what you thought when you were having your revenge with your coworker?" She responded, "Is that what you thought when you were sleeping with your bimbo?" The conversation was going nowhere and I didn't need this stupidity right now. I turned my cell phone off. "Give me morphine, please." Just before lunch, the nurse came back to change my dressings. She started with my face. At that same moment, Terry and Leanne knocked and asked if they could come in. "Oh my God, Mark. What happened to you?" "Hi, Leanne. I was mugged leaving work on Wednesday." Diverting her eyes, I ran into a door. "Where did it happen? Who did it? Did they arrest them?" "It was in the employee parking lot. I don't know what the status of the investigation is at this point. Last night, they discovered I had a ruptured spleen. Nothing serious. Just a few stitches fixed the problem. I knew it was Terry who had inflicted my injuries. So did the police." Apparently, Terry had withheld from Leanne his encounter with the police. The nurse was finished with my face and asked if I wanted my company to leave while she did the spleen surgery dressing. I said no, let them stay. The nurse needed something, so she left, saying she would return shortly. Leanne sat on the chair and Terry tried to start a conversation. "Mark, I just don't know what's going on. None of this makes any sense." I asked Terry to come closer so Leanne couldn't hear. I whispered and explained Leanne was acting very oddly on the last road trip. I asked Terry if she'd been under any pressure recently. Whispering back, he stated her mother died in a car crash last Christmas, and her sister just started chemo for breast cancer. She seems to be dealing with it okay. The nurse returned, so Terry backed up against the wall. It got quiet in the room. Carly stormed in and started yelling at me and Leanne. It got so bad that the nurse called security. Terry restrained Carly until security arrived. After the peace and quiet was restored, the nurse continued her work. At that moment, the strangest scene we all had ever seen began to unfold. Leanne got up and stood close enough to me to hold my hand and said, "Last night was awesome. We need to go to that beach again. Sleeping with you is so good." Terry, myself, and the attending nurse stared at Leanne in disbelief. The nurse looked to Terry and said, "Don't let her leave. I'll be right back." Terry wrapped Leanne in a hug and said, "I'm so sorry." After about 5 minutes, the nurse and a pair of doctors escorted Terry and Leanne from the room. I had all afternoon to replay the entire 2 weeks. There were two very different Leanne personalities. It was several hours later when Terry returned. He was very apologetic. He asked me about her odd behavior. When I told him that the angry encounter with the employee from our customer's company, he lit up. "I'll be right back." He returned with a doctor and I repeated my story. Terry began to explain that when Leanne was a child, she was mentally abused quite severely. Her father was relentless in his verbal mistreatment of her. She has been in the midst of a nervous breakdown since last week's encounter at work. You said she did something strange the day after her work encounter. Was there any conflicts involving her that day? I said no, but then remembered the angry dinner guest and the tray that spilled everywhere. The doctor joined in responding. That would do it. Leanne has what we call dissociative identity disorder. Basically, she has dual personalities. It is usually a reaction to trauma as a way to help a person avoid remembering abuse that occurred. You must have been the person who interceded on her behalf. You made an imprint on her fantasy personality. So what about Sunday and Tuesday? Did something happen on those days? Terry offered. She backed into the lawn mower on Sunday. I yelled at her for being so careless. I found her text to you on Tuesday. We had an argument about it. The more she denied, the angrier I got. I finally left the house and didn't return until after midnight. How about last night? She was still denying an affair, and it just pissed the hell out of me. I can't tell you how bad I feel for you. You did nothing wrong, and I've made a mess of your life. Terry, knowing what we know now, I can't say I blame you. Doc, what can you do for Leanne? Very little. She needs extensive counseling to help her understand what's happened to her. People can get over it. It just takes time. I need to get going, but feel free to ask for me if you have any other questions. Terry apologized again, then left. Even though she had turned my life upside down, I really did feel sorry for Leanne. They informed me that I would likely be released by noon on Sunday evening if I kept progressing well. I sent an email to Dennis asking him to please contact Terry as there had been some pertinent developments. I scrolled through the text messages from Carly. A whole lot of anger being vented towards me. It saddened me to think that this strange set of circumstances had ended my marriage. I played the voicemail, but her attempts to justify her actions only fueled my anger. On Sunday, I drove back to find my house as I had left it. Carly had not moved out and my stuff was still there. I started packing what I thought I'd need for the next week. Dennis called around 3 p.m. and asked if he could drop by. He said everyone was convinced I was not at fault and had done nothing wrong. My attempt to talk to him about Leanne, along with Terry explaining her medical issue, had satisfied all of higher management's concerns. I was reinstated and this would be removed from my employment history. Leanne had been placed on unpaid leave. I had just placed the last sack in my car when Carly pulled into the driveway. She yelled, "You're such a wimp. You're just going to turn and run from our marriage." Carly, Leanne had a nervous breakdown. Nothing she alleged ever occurred. She's under observation at University Hospital. You should talk to Terry to confirm what I'm saying. I'm cutting my losses and I'm going to start over with someone who I hope thinks before she acts. I thought that was you. I could not have been more wrong. Thanks for the good times. I really never want to see or hear from you again. Mark, don't go. She made it up. How was I supposed to know? Mark, please don't go. Carly, it doesn't work that way. I really never want to see or hear from you again. Mark, don't go. She made it up. How was I supposed to know? Mark, please don't go. Carly, it doesn't work that way. I don't plan on spending the next 40 years worried if whatever I've done that day is enough for you to go to the bar and sleep with whoever is there. I won't stay married to a woman who uses her body as a weapon of revenge. Mark, no. This is just a big misunderstanding. We can get by this. Don't go. I'm sorry. Please. I shook my head and closed my car door. Are you kidding me? A misunderstanding? The tone of Carly's text and voicemails had certainly changed. Apparently she thought I would get over this in a few days. My hopes for an amicable divorce were not to be. We have no kids, no pots of gold to divide, yet the judge orders 2 months of weekly counseling sessions. Apparently, Carly saying she didn't want a divorce was the reason behind this roadblock. As much as I wanted to skip them, I certainly didn't need any blemishes on my reputation. The first session ended badly. The counselor tried a divide and conquer approach. I sat in an empty conference room while Carly stated her case, then we swapped chairs. The doc asked Mark, "Tell me how you feel?" "How do I feel?" "It's really very simple, doc. I won't stay married to a woman who uses her body as a weapon of revenge." Doc replied, "Mark, you do realize she thought you had cheated." "Hey doc, that diploma on the wall, did you find it in a box of cereal? What part of what I just said didn't you understand?" Insults don't help us resolve this, Mark. I know you're angry, but you have several years together. Do you still love her? I loved who I thought she was. I don't love who she turned out to be. Now can I go home? Are we done yet? What can she do to regain your trust? I won't stay married to a woman who uses her body as a weapon of revenge. You've already said that. I won't stay married to a woman who uses her body as a weapon of revenge. Is that all you're going to say? I won't stay married to a woman who uses her body as a weapon of revenge. Mark, it's obvious you're not going to cooperate. Let's call it a night and try again next week. Carly tried to stop me from leaving, but I brushed her hand away and left. Was I childish? You bet. Would I ever consider taking her back? Not a snowball's chance in hell. I'm 27 and hope to be married for 50 years. She exposed how vindictive she could be with just someone's accusation. Round 2 went about as well as round 1. Mark, would you like to start? Doc, what do I have to do to satisfy the court order? You must attend these sessions. It would help both of you if you tried to understand each other's feelings. But I don't have to try, do I? Mark, you should try. Okay. Carly, I won't stay married to a woman who uses her body as a weapon of revenge. You two can talk about whatever you want until I can leave. The doc stated you were acting very childish. I replied, insults don't help us resolve this, doc. I know you're angry still, Mark. Let's switch this up and have Carly begin this session. Carly, why don't you tell Mark your feelings? I just stared at the counselor and zoned out, humming a song I had heard on the radio driving to our counseling session. I couldn't quite drown out Carly's attempt to cleanse her soul, but I did a pretty good job of it. I waited until the counselor's lips moved. Sorry, doc, what did you say? I said, how do you feel about what Carly has said? I won't stay married to a woman who uses her body as a weapon of revenge. I heard the sobs and the counselor began put her notes away. My attorney called the next day and said we needed to appear before the judge. Your Honor, my client has attended the sessions as ordered. He has no desire to stay married. There is nothing they can say or do to change that. The counselor has indicated he's not being cooperative, yet this court and the counselor refuse to listen to what my client is saying. Pouring water on the ashes where the bridge used to be, won't rebuild the bridge. Please grant the petition. Thank you. That's why I paid him the big bucks. Petition granted. I must be some kind of lightning rod for a certain kind of women. Carly started pulling pages out of Crazy Leanne's playbook. She would wait for me after work. She would run into me at the grocery store. I would never give her the satisfaction of explaining her actions. She texted me, inviting me out on dates all the time. No matter what I said or did, she persisted. I finally found something to slow her down. I responded to her offer to go out on a date. Carly, my new wife would appreciate you not communicating with me anymore. Have a great life. That seemed to do the trick for a week. Mark, you're not married. I didn't say I was, but when I do find my new wife, that's what she will say. Please move on. I have no doubt she will complicate my attempts to find another woman. I have been trying to date again. The dating scene isn't something I have ever excelled at. I loved who I thought Carly was. So far, nobody is living up to that. A divorcee from accounting took interest in me. Before I asked her out, I cleared it with my boss Dennis. After a few dates, she indicated she just wanted a friends with benefits relationship. The morning after I spent the night with her, for the first time, Carly sent me a text. Do you love her? None of your business. I still love you. I'm sorry. Too little, too late. In the back of my mind, I can see you all watching my demise play out on an episode of Forensic Files. Leanne returned to work and was placed under the supervision of another manager. I do my best to avoid her. She has never said or done anything odd again. The police didn't want or need me to cooperate to convict Terry. The security cameras provided everything they needed. I did appear at his sentencing to ask the court for leniency. He was given a suspended sentence, but he still has a felony conviction. Having a friends with benefits works for now, but I want a soulmate. Preferably a woman who doesn't use her body as a weapon of revenge.
Thank you for tuning in to Audio Tales AI. If you enjoyed today's story, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support keeps these stories coming. Until next time, remember, love, trust, and understanding are the foundation of a great relationship. But betrayal, lust, and deception make for the best YouTube videos.